I'm going to start with a little bit of trivia. I'm going to start with a little bit of trivia. J.D. Edwards was founded back in 1977. And for those of us like Dan and I that go back that far, we remember that. But that's also the year that Billy Bear came out, right? That's Jimmy Carter's brother. When Jimmy Carter became president, his brother started a beer company, and that was a big deal. In 1996, J.D. Edwards launched what became Enterprise One, back in the day called One World. They launched that in 1996, and that's when Tickle Me Elmo was introduced. Now, a year later, because of configurable network computing and because of One World, J.D. Edwards, they went public in 1997, and that's the year that a Palm Pilot was introduced. That was the old-fashioned tablet. Was replaced by the iPad and all those good things. Then in the fall of 2000, J.D. Edwards rebranded what was known as One World, and they took all of those release levels moving forward and called them One World XE. That's when a zip drive was introduced. So 20 years ago, now we have hard drives, portable hard drives, upwards of a terabyte. Back in the day, that was your 318K or 256K zip drive. PeopleSoft and Oracle went to battle. Who was going to buy J.D. Edwards? 2003, PeopleSoft succeeded in purchasing J.D. Edwards, and that was the last time that a Concorde took flight. Larry was a little pissed off. He turned around. He wanted to buy PeopleSoft. He did not want J.D. Edwards, but he ended up buying both companies. And that's the year that our Xbox was introduced. Now, Larry was going to spin off J.D. Edwards and get rid of it. But lo and behold, he realized the breadth of the base that liked J.D. Edwards. So he kept it around. And in 2012, application 9.1 came out. And that's when we had Hurricane Sandy. 2015, 6 years ago, release 9.2 came out. And in 2015, we had two things that occurred. We had an individual that was responsible for Deflategate, for you football fans. But more importantly, Pluto was demoted from a planet and was no longer considered one of the 9 planets. And here we are today in 2020. We're on application release 925 and tools 925. And where are we now? We've re-entered the manned space race with Elon Musk and what he's been doing with his ships. So this timeline, what I'm trying to show you is a lot. Not only has J.D. Edwards evolved a lot, but there's a lot of other technology and things that have happened that at the time people thought were the greatest things since sliced bread, but have now become replaced by other things. So if you look at this, and I apologize for how small it is, understand what release level you're on. That's the first row at the top. And then when you look down, understand that the tools release that supports that application release, you can only go so far. And once you hit that brick wall, like if you're on applications 9.0, you can only go to tools 9.2.2. That means there's a lot of things that are capable for you to do in the tools releases that you can't simply because you're behind. What you need to understand is the tools layer is that layer that gives you the capability to grow your system, to lower your cost of ownership in J.D. Edwards by letting you configure and personalize your system rather than customizing it. And doing this allows your system to become more stable as your organization grows. And all of this is done utilizing technology that we are all aware of and comfortable using. So you have to understand that user-defined objects, or UDOs, that is what you need as an individual to augment how you can optimize your performance within your job function and organization. So again, we are now on application release 9.2 update 5. Lyle through the last In Focus session said that's supported now till 2032. And Oracle has been active in this continuous innovation model, which means that they're going to continue to deliver applications and tools on this release level at least through 2032. But what you have to understand as an individual is simply because you got to application level 9.2, and simply because you have tools release 9.2.5, that doesn't mean that you are part of Oracle's philosophy of continuous innovation. You have to understand that continuous innovation means that Oracle is going to constantly deliver enhancements to you. But as an organization, if you don't evaluate and adopt those, then you're really not in a continuous innovation model. So Oracle is going to give you these things on a frequent and regular basis. It's up to you to analyze them, to understand how they can help your organization, and to implement them on a regular basis. And regular doesn't mean the same time Oracle does it. Regular means on a consistent basis. In my opinion, at least twice a year. Because what Oracle is continuing to do is building upon three simple pillars. They want to simplify the software, they want to optimize the experience, and they want to transform your JD Edwards ERP system. So when they talk about simplification, they don't want the system to become an administrative nightmare. They don't want the deployment of packages or other things to become a hindrance to the organization. When they talk optimization, they want you as a user to be as productive as you can be by utilizing machine-to-machine type of entry, by utilizing the capability of on-the-glass kind of coding where you as a user can turn around and modify a screen to work the way you want, by you as a user doing what Dan's going to show you, creating a search that lets you look for information to make your job easier. And last but not least, the transformation of your business is the continual digitization of the ERP system, i.e., getting more augmented intelligence, getting more machine-to-machine type of capability. So in a nutshell, let's protect your business, improve your business, and future-proof your business. Let's lower your cost of ownership by giving you low and no-code user interfaces and integration capability. Let the system process data automatically, and overall, we'll be able to get a more efficiently run and maintainable system, all being a enterprise state-of-the-art kind of infrastructure. All of that is continuous innovation. So I said applications. 9.2 came out in 2015. There was a hiatus of 2 years before update 2 came out. And then approximately every year after that, there's a new update. Now, let's be honest with each other. Manufacturing is manufacturing is manufacturing. Cutting a check is cutting a check is cutting a check. How many enhancements can really be made as to how the process is done, right? Within the software, there's very few enhancements. But when you talk the tools layer, the layer with those user-defined objects, in the same period of time, notice that not only are they coming out every 6 months, but throughout the 6-month period, there's multiple levels of the tools release coming out. So you could see right now, for some of you that might say, well, geez, I'm on tools release 9.2.2. That's okay. That's fine. I'm okay. Well, you're really not, because you're still 4 years behind, and there's so much more you can do that you're not leveraging. You need to be continuous innovation, take all the updates. And Oracle, they deliver these things in little chunks, right? If there's a problem that an application is having, they'll fix that in what's called an ESU. So you could take the one ESU to fix your, your work order process. Or if it's an application and they've enhanced it, like a work order history table, that'll come out as an ASU, right? Or an application software update. Naturally, if you're global and you need French or Spanish or Chinese languages for these things, you have to update the languages as well. Now, if you want to bundle things together, you can take what's called a maintenance pack and bundle a bunch of things together. And last, but definitely not least, is this tools release all of the fixes to that foundation code of which UDOs are part of. So back in the day, 1977, on the left-hand side, J.D. Edwards, just transactional, quote unquote, data warehouse kind of system. Today, it's an intelligent ERP system. And even though most organizations think that that's going to happen in the future, that's not the case now. There is already machine-to-machine automation that's going on in J.D. Edwards. So we need to take advantage of that. Why? We started all this with upgrade to the 9s, get off of XE, get off of an 8 release, get to a 9 release. Then we said, well, wait a minute, get off of 9.0, go to 9.1, and now let's upgrade in less than 100 days instead of 6-8 months. And once we were on 9.0.2 or 9.1, we said, wait, let's simplify the upgrade process. So if you have customizations, if you do them the right way, they just come up in time. At the same time, let's introduce the Internet of Things and machine to machine. Let's empower the user to be able to develop and customize their own solution so that they can get to this overall UX1 experience and ultimately lead to complete digitalization, letting a machine detect information, decide what to do and or do it so that a human can simply be alerted, analyze, and act. So what are you going to do? How are you going to incorporate all of these different things that come out as user-defined objects? How are you going to utilize the integration and augmented intelligence of orchestrations and notifications? What are you going to do to blend them all together into a unique experience for the user? We're not saying that Tom should do it and give it to other, 100 people. No, everybody should be able to do it themselves. So today, what we're going to show you today is we're going to show you Enterprise One Search, okay? Now, what's important with this is you need to understand in J.D. Edwards, there's two types of searches. There's what's called Enterprise One Task Search. That comes with the software. That's there, and that happens for everybody. And that utilizes what's called the fast path box, right? If you clicked on your drop down to get your menu tree, you'll see a little box there. And even if you don't have the capability because you've been secured out, you can still type in a word such as journal in that box. And what it will do is it will return in the system everywhere that word appears for a program, a report, an application. Now, if you are secured out of using some of those, that security is still in play. You can't, quote, circumvent, security. But this is another way for you to search for reports, applications, whatever, by using keywords. What Dan is going to show you now is a user-defined object called a search group. And you, because user-defined objects are secured out, you have to have authority and access to those. So when you get back to your organization, if you click the drop down next to your name, you don't see a button that says manage content, or when you open it up, you don't see search groups. It means that you don't have authority to do them. 9.2.5, some enhancements in this tools release, which are critical if you ask me, is now you have the ability to do an exact match. Before, if you simply put in the number 1, 2, 3, the system would return anything that had 1, 2, 3 as part of the string. Now you could say, no, I want to exactly match 1, 2, 3. You have the ability to export those results. You also have the ability now that if you developed a query or a personal form, that when you drill into related information from the search, you can launch that query or personal form. So let's have Dan show you some of the things that you can do. All right, I'm going to turn around and hopefully, Dan, you're there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, or can you get it? Don't ask me why it's still.
I can't.
Yeah, I don't know why it's. Oh, here, hang on, Dan. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. You should be able to get it now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's right here. All right, you should start seeing my screen.
Yep, you're good to go, Danny.
All right. So, hi, everybody. So, one of the questions that came up, just so you know, before we get started, was is 2032 the end of JDE? No. That's the end. Right now, they keep moving that year up every year at InFocus. It's like a big event. This year, I think it moves it up too. But that means they're going to continue to do innovations and keep doing these tools releases and stuff. And the only time we're going to have another big one is probably, after that, because I don't think they're going to do another. I think they like doing the upgrades the way they do them, just by doing the little tools update and application updates, versus doing the big bang of from 9.2 to 9.3 or something like that, right? Or that doesn't exist, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so what we're going to do, like Tom was just talking about the searches. Let me show you these, and it's kind of neat, because you're going to see that, like what Tom just said, you can put whatever you want in here. And I did learn something. This is case sensitive, by the way. So I put in journal and find, I don't get, oops, if I spelled it right too, that would help. I don't get any results, but if you just spell it right, it's, so did learn that the hard way, because I was trying to show somebody, like, wait, why won't this work? Well, because that is case sensitive. Like sometimes in Edwards it does that, right? You have all these things. And notice these are all your tasks, your menus that you might have out there anyway. So none of that stuff goes to waste. It's still there. So anyway, but Tom was showing us this thing where we had this big search bar over here. And if you notice, I don't have one. I don't have one because I deleted my search capability. So I start off fresh. But once I go in here, I'm going to show you this. So under my name here, I've gone on here to content, manage content. And I've got this thing called search groups. So what we're going to do today, okay, my background, I'm a sales guy, or in sales and inventory and purchasing. I was a distribution guy from way back when. So all my examples are going to be involved sales order and stuff. So I am going to try to do some AR information, and hopefully I don't screw it up, because that's, I'm not a financial guy. So here we go. We're going to give it a shot. So search groups, we're going to put in a search group. And, if you've done any of these UDOs before, you'll notice that, this stuff comes up with a new, any of the grids come up and you got to create a new thing. And this comes up with searchable content. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do a table, or do you know your business view? So in my case, I know that I want, I'm just going to do straight sales order for right now, the straight sales detail table. But if I wanted to find the business view that had like my address book name or something like that, I can do all that and put that in there. But we're not going to do that today. Okay. So I'm going to do 4211. Just click the add button, and everything in 4211 is going to pop up. So I have a simple thing where I'm going to just grab a few fields, and let me explain why I'm going to do this. I had a client that actually we created a custom version of something very similar to this. They had most of their West Coast clients were West Coast, not most of them, a lot of them were, and they're on the East Coast. And they had salesmen would come in they'd come in starting about 9 or 10 in the morning, and they'd work till 7 or 8 at night, or 6 or 7 or whatever it was at night. So in the morning, in the AM, when first the company opens up, they're getting a lot of phone calls about, where's my shipment? Where's my delivery? What did it ship last night, or didn't it? And yes, they were sending emails, and yes, all these things, but these people were calling the company to find out if the stuff got there. And people answering the phones were not salesmen. We had a couple salesmen that were there for East Coast, but they were swamped already with their own stuff. So all these calls rolled over to the receptionists. Receptionists had to look up the stuff on reports. Well, reports only got so far and they were out of date virtually after they were created, right? So and it was really hard for them to find everything they were looking for, where the customer would say, here's my part number, here's my this, here's my that. So all these things come into play and they're like, yeah, we had to build this thing to go do that. And it took a long time, took a lot of development effort, a lot of money and a blessing to get the development done. And you're going to update, so all this stuff. This now we can do now. What took me probably 3 weeks to get something that tangible they could use, it's going to take us about 15 minutes to do this. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the sales order. We're going to also have another lookup from that sales order for open POs, open invoices, and then we're also going to be able to look up availability from here. All in 15 minutes, we're going to create this. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to find some basic information. I want to find, and I'm going to actually search by my field names. It's probably a little easier for me because, you know, it's alphabetic. I don't want, oops, I'll do that. Try that in the right spot here. LITM. Here's my little second item number. I'm going to put in my AN8. I want to know my address number. I want to do my, what is my order number? USCO. If I wanted to just do that as my doc, where's my invoice number? So if you guys are familiar with the field names, then you're going to be pretty happy with some of this. If I want to not do that, it's my quantity. I'll do Q and see what's out there when my quantity shipped. Maybe I want unit price, so I'll start with U. And oh, it shows everything here, but I want, whoops, goes fast. Unit price. Yeah, UPRC. I want to do my extended. My extended price. Extended price, and let's do customer PO number, right? VRO1. Okay, so that's a few things, and if you don't know what all these things are, we can actually update them. So this is the cool part too. Remember, this was built. My example was built for people who don't know what these field names are. What's the second item number? What's that? So we're going to call that a SKU. Do that. I'm going to say this is customer. I said order number is fine. Let's say this is your our order. Document number is my invoice. Let's call it quick quantity. Do it bad. And I'm just making this stuff up, right? And customer PO. Okay, so we've got some cool things. So now down here, how do I want them to look? Well, I can set these things up. And if you've done any of the grids that are not, some of the grids, you can do these grids like this as well. If you're doing grid format changes in new tools. So let's say I want to do my customer. Do I need the label for that or just want to have the name? I can just do the name or the name and the label. So let's do just the name. It's going to be actually a number. Let's say I want to do my order number, but I'll put the whole thing in there. So an order number and then have the actual order number. And underneath it, let's put in our item number. Let's put our invoice number. We'll do both. I'll go underneath that. I'll say, what's my quantity? What's my price? What's my extended? And you know what? I want to add down here my customer PO number. So that's the whole bunch of stuff, right? In one lookup. Let's do a quick save on that before I add anything else. I'm going to call this sales. Sales. All right, so let's just do out here. We're going to do an example. So now if you notice, I now have a search box out here where I didn't have one before. Okay. And I have some examples. Yes, of course I do, right? So I'm going to look up Dan test because that's what or test Dan. How's that? Test Dan. So it brings up, there's multiple searches. If I had multiple searches out there, I can select a certain one. So you can have a search out there for something that's not even sales. Maybe it's something in finance or manufacturing or something. But for this case, we're going to look it up, click OK, hit the little button. So it's going out there and says, oh, okay, well, I found a bunch of stuff. Well, here's the customer PO I'm looking for, Dan test, but what are all these other things? Well, because I didn't hit exact match, it's using the words. So Dan test and test Dan are simultaneous. This is an item number, right? So of course I'm playing with stuff out there. But I can hit the exact match and boom. What was it, Dan test? What was it? Of course it's Dan test. Dan test. Hit the exact match. Now I only get the ones that are Dan test. So kind of, if someone gives you a real customer PO number or something, boom, you only get what's really there. In this case, I was looking for other stuff. I could say, oh, here's my item, right? So that's good. So let's go out and look at what else we can do with this. So let's close this. We'll go back to manage content. We're going to add some more stuff. Because now that we've got a good search, we know that it gives a good search, but we want other stuff. We want to know other things. So I'm going to go to the related information. Okay. And I can add something to this. So what can I add? I'm going to go to the table and I want to add, oh boy, here we go. You ready? I'm going to try and do AR information, right? So I know it's 03B11. Tom always giggles inside when I'm doing this because I don't know what I'm doing for this, but I'm going to do it. I have a few things I know I want. I know I want the customer, right? I'm going to click that. And I know I want what is it? AID, account ID. Yep, account ID. I want to do my doc, right? Doc invoice. I want to do invoice. No, did I already do a doc? Oh, there's it there. And I want to do AG amount, gross amount, and I want to do VRO1. If there is one, I want it. All right, there's my reference number. So cool stuff. And if you notice, I don't have a place to grid it down here. It just comes in the order that I put it in here. So if there's something I don't want, I can delete it. I can add something, but it'll go at the end. I don't think I can move these at all. You can't. But if I need to map something, I can. So I'm going to click on, get rid of this. And I'm going to find my AN8. And I'm going to map my AN8. Now, these are all the stuff I picked in the address or the first thing for sales order. I want to add it to that. Customer. I also want to add a different one. I want to do also one for purchasing. I want to see if there's any open orders or something, presumably, okay? So I'm going to say up here and I'm going to say the same thing. I want to know my item number. I want to know my amount open, quantity open. AOPN. Probably want to do my quantity open as well, but let's do MCU. I don't know, branch. Oops, spell Dan. So you kind of see how we're kind of building like another inquiry, right? So I want to do my ANBY, buyer number in case we need to call a buyer, UOPN, quantity open, and let's do the date. What date should we use? How about DRQJ? Okay, so these also came in the order I put them in. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what that does. Let's save it. We'll take a look. Oh, gotta map something on this one. Sorry. So this one, I want to map my item number because I want to see what's open for POs, right? So let's map my item number to SKU. Look at that. And you to do that, let's save. You guys are excited. I'm sure you are. So let's go take a look, see what happens. So we're going to look at Dan test again. Dan.test or Dan space test. Maybe. Yep. Click OK or enter. It's going to go and look at that stuff. Now, it's the same information, right? But now if you notice, we've got a couple different things. Okay. Now I have an related information. I click on that. It brings up the customer ledger. So my customer in this case was 4242. And it gives me all my open invoices and stuff. I've got some blah, blah, blah stuff out here. Of course, you can see where I was playing with stuff. So, and I've also have purchase orders, right? For this Dan test item. Oh, there is some out here in branch plant 30, a whole lot of them. So on the same thing, let's go out here and look at one of these guys. These are your darn bikes out there, right? So I can say, oh, look at all the POs here. A lot of them, or a lot of POs out there. Again, same customer ledger because it's still 4242. That's pretty neat. And I also have this other thing. I can download this. So let's export this. Export all of them. I can pick one and choose, but I'm going to do them both. And of course, it puts it right down here in a CSV. So let's open that up and take a peek. So just like that, I've got all my information on one screen. Of course, it's not the prettiest information because I just made this stuff up, right? So it is what it is. It's the same stuff we just looked at with the blah, blah, blah. All that stuff's here on inquiry. So pretty cool stuff so far, right? But that's not all. There's more we're going to play with here. So let's close this again. I'm going to do one more thing to this. And that'll be kind of neat. So all that being said, we've done search to the detail. We've done some related things. You can do multiples. I just did the two. Well, now we've got an action. What do we want to do on this one? This is actually going to call an actual program. So I want to call P41202. That's your availability. I want to work with item availability. I can pick and choose the version I want to use. I just want to use the vanilla one, right? Click OK. Now in this one, I definitely have to do something. So I didn't have the short item up here anywhere. I could have put the short item in my original grid, but I've got item number unknown. So I'm going to map it to SKU. So it knows to do that. Okay. I'm going to save this. That was really easy, right? That little piece. Because the programs are already there. So let's go back and look at this. And test. Okay, so if now we notice we've got another little field here. So we have the information, the download, and or the export and the action. So let's look at this one. This is Dan test. Work with item availability. Bam. Okay, a couple things happened. First, it brought up this is what I got for available. And I also used a query on this to default in only on hand. So when we go to the other one, let's see, it's pretty cool. Let's go back to this other one. Let's go to the 210, as we know, there's a ton of stuff there, right? My on hand here is only on hand. I don't want any blanks. So I brought everything over that's on hand for this item, 210, just by clicking that button. So long and short of this is that, in a really quick time, I went out there and I created a whole lot of information from just a couple questions that you might get asked, right? And the search, I'm like, okay, big deal, search. But once I started playing with this thing, it's really, really cool. You can do, a lot of stuff that we had programmed. I just did in a few minutes, right? So I've got a quick lookup. You can add more or less things, and you can put on more or less things you want, or only things you want to have action to or information about. And the action, I could add more things where I want to go, my own row exits, if you will, just like that, just that simple. And again, this is something that we almost built this exact model for those receptionists, and it took, I'm going to say, at least 2 weeks to get it all spec'd out, laid out, approved, tested, all that. We just did this in 15 minutes. So it's a huge time saver, and it's, it can be shared with other groups or other people. Yes, security is important. If you don't have security, you won't be able to do some things or see some things. But that's okay. That's what it's all about. You don't have to share it with everybody. And when you hit this little share, it can go and it goes to you, whoever your administrator is, to determine, yes, I can share this with this group, that group, or this person, or that person, or across the whole company. So that can all happen. And that's what I pretty much got. Tom, what do you
And
think about that?
no, and what's nice, Dan, is you're showing them as well how you can customize your grid or customize your form and get that look and feel. You can embed other UDO things and things of that nature to have users understand what they want to share. So, it's not just search being search, it's the search being able to also incorporate a form extension, meaning that if you had other fields of information that normally aren't on a form, you can create a form extension and call that form extension as part of the search result. So you can get a lot deeper than this. And one of the questions that was asked earlier is, it's all about the security, because again, think about what this is doing. This is replacing an IT person doing customizations, right? In effect, it's users doing quote unquote customization for themselves. So there is a lot that has to be thought about when you say to yourself, who should I allow to do it? Where should it be done? Like, it shouldn't be done in production, because if you put a new tools release on, all that's going to get blown away. You have to do this just like you would if you were doing a customization from scratch. Do it in your PY environment. The other thing I want to mention is, just because Dan is the person that can quote unquote develop it, my philosophy and my process is, put it in PY, let every user have access to it so they can see what to do, because Tom and Dan collaborating together and saying, oh, we should do this or this or this, is going to make better benefit to the group than, no offense, Dan, than if Dan just did it on his own, So let the user community say, this is what we feel we need. Now, UDOs, there's tons of them. And there's little tweaks and enhancements being done, like you just saw in Tools 925, the exact match for search. There's a lot of ways to manipulate all of this. And the best thing for you to do is to contact Dan and say, Dan, help me understand everything I could do across the world of UDOs, and how I might be able to use that and position that within my organization. So GSI, we do offer training classes, and you can see on the screen right now, Dan and his group will do them. And like he just alluded to, you give them scenarios and they help you define and determine what you need to do. So having said all that, having showed you what's going on, GSI also has a resource center where we have pre-recorded webcasts, recorded webcasts. There's some out there on search. There's some out there on form extension. There's some out there on, using queries and watch lists. Go look at our recorded webcasts. We also have newsletters that have tips and tricks in there, the things you can look for and do. It's a full-blown resource center. We have YouTube videos. We conduct workshops. We conduct a UX1 workshop where you go in and create your own, scenarios for extensions and everything else. So go to our resource center. We have a blog. Enter a blog. People communicate and associate back and forth. We also have what's called ERP-Talk. You can simply go in and request or ask a question, and a human will turn around and give you an answer. So again, we're trying to help organizations thrive within JD Edwards. and so we do that by giving back to the ecosystem. And naturally, as is all things American and worldwide, we are on a multitude of different platforms. So feel free to reach out to us in any of the manners listed on the screen. So with that, Dan, I think, I don't know, I think there's a couple of questions we have or whatever.
I did want to make one comment though. Yeah, I just did a UX1 training class last week. It was a couple day sessions. It was fantastic. We got a lot of things and we talked through a lot of issues they had because they fixed it with UX1. How can we do this? It was a real cool question and answer type session and a lot of unscripted stuff. It was really cool. So that was, we didn't even spend, I don't think we spent actually even 6 hours altogether. So it was pretty good. It was 2 days.
And what's nice, and what you alluded to, Dan, is very important. For those of you that have used JD Edwards for a while, or for those of you that are more of a development bent than a functional bent, back in the day, I'm going back probably 8-10 years ago, the user community said to Oracle, hey, listen, Dan, when he did his purchase order, there might be more information I want to be able to put in that table of data, but there's no field for me to use. So Oracle came up with these user reserve fields, of which Dan was using a few, and those fields are not exposed to anybody. What's nice now is you have the ability to get at that information and alleviate a modification that you may have made so that somebody can see that. So there's a lot of little uniquenesses that Dan and his group can help you understand.
True.
All right. So do we have any questions out there, Dan?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. Did I hear correctly? A tools release will delete the E1 search setup. No.
And the answer to that question is depends on how you do them. You have to understand all of those things, all the UDOs are modifications, quote unquote, modifications. So if you do them just in production, you have to understand how to save them off so you could put them back again. You need to use the same change management process that your IT group would do. So think about going to your IT group and saying, develop a search for me. They're not going to do it in production. They're going to turn around and do something in the development environment. Then they're going to promote it up to your test environment. You're going to look, you're going to test it. And if everything's okay, they're going to move it up to production. Now, if Dan comes back and says, hey, tweak this, they're going to go back to development and tweak it. And they're going to push it to the test environment again, and then into production. You need to treat these UDOs the same way.
Yeah, they kind of become part of projects, web developed projects, but they're still projects.
Exactly.
So that they should be there. If they're not there, you take a chance of losing them if something promotes up. But it shouldn't be an issue at all, to be honest, especially if you do it.
There are ways around it, but the ways become more cumbersome than doing it the proper way.
And also, how do you mitigate performance load for poorly built E1 searches?
That you want to answer that one, or you want me to start?
First of all, I don't know that everybody would have the search capability. You probably would limit that to a few folks to do the generic, but I don't know.
The answer to that question is this. It's no different than your query function, right? The system defaults to a maximum number of records. So I'm going to start first by saying that if you're an organization and you have 15 years of history on your system, shame on you for not doing archiving and purging, right? That's number one. You should not have such vast amounts of data unless you're in some type of industry that requires that type of audit, right? Number two, the software, when it's delivered, inherently has a limit as to how many records you can query over and return. But you as users, not you as users, you as an organization have the ability to change that. So right now, basically it's 200 records, right? Once it gets 200 records, it stops and that's it. So again, it's all understanding. It's all working and saying, what is your need? What do you need to do? What's the most efficient way to do it? And as Dan just said, it doesn't matter if 10 of us are querying and all bringing back 200 records. That's not the performance issue. The performance issue is if the 10 of us are going to query and we get to query over 17 years of data. That's the issue.
Cool.
Anything else, big man?
That's it. That's all I see.
So what I'd like to say to everybody again is take us up on our offer. It doesn't hurt. The other thing I'd like to say is this. If you have heard something that piques your interest, or if you heard something that you feel other people in your organization should also know about, feel free to contact us and we'll do this type of session for your organization. We're more than willing to give you, a quote unquote company webinar to talk about these things so that we can help you move forward in your thought process as to what to do. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. You can ask Dan, you can ask myself, if these things were available to us when we were actually users and doing stuff, our world would have been a lot different. So if you're not seeing them and you're not incorporating them in your business, you really now need to think long and hard as to why not.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. I keep telling people that too. I said, I wish I was a user when I go through some of these UX1 things, because it was such a pain to do, all the workarounds and the, hoops you got to jump through just to get some answers sometimes.
Exactly.
All at your fingertips.
All right. So you have the link at the bottom. You have our website at the bottom, our phone number. Again, if you need us, feel free. I think, are we done with all the questions, Dan? I don't know if another one.
We have one more. One more popped up.
All right, hang on.
It's not a question, it's a comment. Great presentation. Thanks for the info. You're welcome.
All right. Well, there you go. So listen, everybody. Number one, thank you, Dan. As always, I appreciate your help and assistance in this. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and hopefully you all got a benefit from this presentation. Enjoy the rest of your day. Dan, I'll let you have the last word.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good holiday weekend. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.